Hello and welcome to this webinar organised by Kerry Health and Nutrition Institute, a thought leadership platform which brings the science of food and sustainable nutrition to life through a network of experts such as our panel today. I'm Damien McLoughlin, Professor of Marketing at University College Dublin, and I'll moderate today's discussion between the panel and also with your questions at the end of today's discussion. Let me start by introducing our panel in alphabetical order. Beatriz Jacost is Director of KM0 Food Innovation Hub based in Valencia in Spain. Beatrice spends much of her time traveling around the world, meeting food heroes. Sounds pretty cool, Beatrice. The farmers, nice to include the farmers, entrepreneurs, policymakers, and business leaders who are transforming the way we eat. The mission of KM0 Food Innovation Hub is to future-proof the food system by bringing together these startups, institutions, and corporations to inspire change and create meaningful synergies. Beatrice has come to our webinar today directly from a local school where she's been educating young people in the future of food and the role of food in their lives. So welcome, Beatrice. Jack Bobo is director of the University of Nottingham's Food System Institute. Jack is well known globally for his original and thought-provoking insights on the relationships between food, law, and environmental policy. Before joining Nottingham, Jack worked at the Nature Conservancy, one of my favourite organisations and also one of the largest conservation organisations in the world. Previous roles for Jack include as Senior Advisor on Global Food Policy at the US Department of State. Thanks for being with us today, Jack. Xiao Breed is Director of Growth and Innovation at How Good, a sustainability accounting automation platform. You're going to have to explain to us how that works, Xiao. That helps food companies improve impact, save costs, and drive sales by measuring and communicating sustainability impact. Xiao described himself as an entrepreneur, breakdancer. We can demonstration if we have a couple of minutes left at the end, Xiao, agroforester and recreational scuba diver. He's previously worked as Global Director of Sustainable Development at InBev. I said to Xiao, we started that when I was reading his profile, I said, this guy has got to be a graduate of the SEMS Masters in International Management, and I was delighted to see on his profile that in fact that is the case. So always nice to be working with a SEMSy, Xiao, and thanks a lot. Juan Agueriano is a corporate sustainability innovator and pioneer. Juan's current position is Group Head of Sustainability and Food Technology Ventures at Kerry Group. Before joining Kerry, Juan worked in DuPont, where he was Managing Director in the DuPont Nutrition and Health Division. While DuPont is generally regarded as one of the best business schools in the world, Juan is also a graduate of the University of Texas at Austin. Hook 'em horns, Juan, and thanks for being with us today. Our question for today appears to be incredibly simple in one sense. How do we feed a growing population while positively managing the accelerating environmental degradation of our planet? The complexity of the problem is huge, and for most of the people, a couple of thousand people on the call, for most of us on the call, this is the big issue that faces us commercially. How do we change what we sell? How do we change what we manufacture in a way that enhances the lives of the people who consume our products and also avoids or regenerates the earth that we live on? I'm going to start with you, Jack. Jack, do you have a sense of how close our industry, how close the food system is to actually delivering on sustainable nutrition?
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. And so let me start though by dividing that problem into the sustainability portion and the nutrition portion. So, and look at the challenge that we face. In terms of the sustainability, well, 40% of all the land on Earth that could be used for agriculture is being used for agriculture today. The amount of cropland the size of South America, the amount of pasture land the size of Africa, 70% of all fresh water going to agriculture, and about 30% of all greenhouse gas emissions come from agriculture. So in terms of the challenge, we have a long way to go. If we were to talk about nutrition, well, I'm going to use the US as an example because it's particularly stark. 42% of all Americans are obese, 75% are overweight or obese. And, that's a huge challenge. Every country in the world is following right behind the United States. So we have a huge challenge in both of those areas. But when we think about where we've come from, the differences become stark. If we're talking about sustainability, well, in many ways, if we were to look at global hunger, yes, 800 million people are going to bed hungry. That's 10% of all the people on the planet. That's tragic. It's unacceptable. But 20 or 30 years ago, that would have been 20% of all the people on the planet. And 60 years ago, it would have been 30% of all the people on the planet. So, in terms of sort of feeding people, in some ways, that has gotten better. If we were to look at greenhouse gas emissions in terms of sustainability, well, a farmer in the United States today produces a bushel of corn, with 35% greenhouse gas emissions, 40% less land, 40% less energy, 50% less water, and 60% less erosion. So in terms of sustainability, in many ways, things are not just better, they're actually wildly better. The problem, though, comes when we talk about nutrition. Well, if we were to go back to 1975 and look at the world in terms of nutrition, before 1975, basically not a single country on the planet had an obesity rate above 15%. Today, basically no country on the planet has an obesity rate below 15%. So while we're moving in the right direction in many ways in terms of sustainability, we're definitely moving in the wrong direction when it comes to nutrition. And so, how do we ensure that we bring those two positive trends together? So, in terms of agriculture and sustainability, I like to say that things are not bad and getting worse, they're good and getting better, but not fast enough. In terms of nutrition, things are indeed bad and getting worse. And so, maybe I'll leave that as the context to get us started. Thank you very much.
Jack, is there one country or one region where nationally or regionally progress is being made to create a more sustainable nutrition environment? Japan is sometimes mentioned was a very low level of childhood obesity, perhaps in comparison to other nations. Do you have a sense of some place in the world that are doing the right things, and what are they doing that the rest of the world is not?
The country level, it's very hard to see things are definitely going in the right direction in terms of nutrition. Uh, there are pieces that are where we're making some progress in terms of school programs where we're working to enhance the nutrition and understanding of food for kids so that that will then translate throughout their lives. There are other places that are in China where they're sort of banning buffets so that you don't have so much food waste and you're not encouraging people to overconsume. Places like France, where they're encouraging retailers not to throw out food, and which could reduce waste and could help to address some food insecurity. And so there are pieces that we might have where things are looking better. But in terms of actual countries, for the most part, every country in the world on the nutrition side is trending in the wrong direction. And so, it's definitely something that we need to get our hands on because the cost to the global economy, well, in the US, the cost of food related chronic diseases, 50% of Americans have them, is about $1 trillion a year. In terms of the global economy, according to the UN Food and Agriculture Organization, the cost of the global economy is 10 to $12 trillion from food related illnesses. And so it's definitely a big challenge.
As well as the misery of individuals' lives as well, of course, and the lost families from that results from that. Jack, where are the decisions being made, and what are the decisions that are causing this transition to sustainable nutrition to be so slow, or to be, I don't think it's non-existent, but it is
Yeah.
definitely slow. What are the decisions, and where are those decisions being made or not being made that cause this to run so slowly?
Well, I mean, for 10,000 years, farmers have been asked to do one thing, and it's produce more food.
Yeah.
And, food companies and others have just had the job of delivering nutrition. And so we're at this one unique moment in all of human history where we kind of have to change. And it's not just about more food, but it's about better food. And so I don't think we should be, surprised that it's going to take a little while to get it right. But I do think that most countries around the world are far more focused on this as an issue today than they would have been 20 years ago, and maybe 10 years ago as well. But 10, 15 years from now, every country is going to be hyper focused on this question because it's going to low budgets in terms of GDP, and also, as you said, the toll that it has on people's lives, quality of life is just enormous. And so we have to get our hands around it. And that's why I think this conversation is so critically important.
Jack, I'm going to ask other members of the panel they want to join in on your comments in just a moment. But there has a questions come in, and I'm going to try and hold the questions until the end. Right, this one speaks right to what you're talking about, and that is, should we understand healthy nutrition using obesity or overweight as being the best indicator, or should we look for something else? Is there some other metric that might give us better guidance or more hope as to what the future actually looks like?
Yeah, I mean, I think overweight and obesity are symptoms of a problem, and
Yeah.
that we shouldn't be overly focused on that because I don't think these are individual problems. This has much more to do with our food environment, how that's changed over time. We don't have less willpower than we did 50 years ago. We don't know less about nutrition than we did 50 years ago. We have access to better nutrition information, nutrition labeling, options and choices in grocery stores. And so, I think that a lot more attention needs to be paid to that food environment itself and not the focus. So it's a way of measuring progress, but it's not the
Yeah.
root cause of the problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Jia, would you like to join in on this? I think you've made some commentaries about changing people's minds about the possibility of sustainable nutrition in the past. You want to join in on Jack's comments about the difficulties that are involved here?
Yeah, sure. I think one insight is, for me personally, is that no one likes to be told what to do. I think we all appreciate having some sense of agency in our lives to somehow feel that we are in control of making our own decisions. And so, in our work here at How Good, we believe that a lot of the key to facilitate and accelerate that transition is really about transparency. Because guess what? People are trying to make more sustainable and more nutritious choices, but we make it really hard for these people. If you just count the number of eco labels, there are 450 different types of eco labels out there. Every brand is trying to position what they do as the most sustainable and the most nutrition option among their peers. And the result is, you go to the supermarket and you get confused. It's really a tough job to find the most sustainable and the most nutritious product at a glance.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the key to accelerate that transition, I believe, is really about having systems and frameworks to evaluate sustainability and nutrition that are simple, comparable, and fair, and that a consumer can use at a glance to make the most sustainable and the most nutritious solutions. And here at How Good, because we work with so many large retailers across the world in both the United States and the European Union, we've seen that when you make it simple, then products that, for example, are more sustainable grow 25 to 249% faster than conventional products. And so once we make it easy for people to make the right choices, they will make the right choices for themselves.
Beatrice, could I ask you? I'm intrigued by your work with children and schools. I wonder, what did you tell the children in the school today about food and how they should eat and how they should look at themselves? What is your message to children?
So we did go there with the idea of raising awareness around these topics, but I learned much more than they did, for sure. And what I learned is that people don't make decisions based on data. So I was listening to Joao, and he was mentioning how maybe labeling or communicating these products in a certain way could help in shifting those behaviors. But from my experience, from what I lived today with the children, we're very, very, very far away from getting there. And words such as nutrition, healthy, sustainable are very empty words, and they are not drivers of change. And it is, in fact, data is not a driver for purchase in most cases. So we really have to become obsessed as an industry, as food change makers, in making people care. And I think the focus has to be there now. We have been working with the food industry for years in shifting that paradigm. As Jack mentioned, we have to shift from maximizing calorie production to maximizing nutrition. We are there. We're still working on that, but I see that as a much easier challenge than making people care. So how do we start working, for example, with children, with consumers, and also recognizing that these people, these consumers, they are very different amongst them. So it is impossible to speak about one future of food, about one food system. So I love the fact that nowadays we're speaking about food systems in plural, because they will be different. They will be different geographically. They will be different depending on the socioeconomic status of the person itself. And they will be different depending on the demographics. We have never, as a market, catered to 5 generations, and we are doing that at this moment. So I can't agree more with what Jack said regarding how broken our food system is from a sustainability and from a nutrition standpoint. So there is a lot of effort to be done. I think it is our responsibility as a food industry to create that better food environment, so to make the best decision the easiest one. And we have to be very sensitive. We are speaking about food, which is identity, which is culture. We cannot just bring in strange products to the market.